Later this morning, the Senate's going to hold a hearing on the state of retail investing in the wake of the GameStop controversy. Here with more, Pennsylvania Senator Pat Toomey, ranking member of the Senate Banking Committee. It's being reborn again, GameStop. I don't know if you follow it that closely at this point, Senator, but it's truly a phenomenon that looks like it's here to stay, and it's not just that name. We're seeing it a lot of places. What do you need to know?
Well, look, I'm interested in what we're going to hear. I think from our colleagues on the other side and some of the witnesses, we're going to hear that, basically unsubstantiated class warfare about how the system is rigged against the little guy. There's a lot of criticism about gamification, as you know, the idea that you make the experience of investment enjoyable and easy is somehow a problem for some folks, not for me. We might get into a discussion about payment for order flows and whether that's a good execution mechanism. There might be some discussion about shorting regulations. Look, my view is the democratization of these markets has been fantastic. Zero commissions, extremely narrow bid offer means retail investors can buy into stocks in a way they never could before, being able to buy a fraction of a share, for instance. This is why over half of Americans are now investors when 10, 20 years ago, it was a small fraction. It's really very, very good. And I don't believe in this paternalistic idea that we have to protect people from themselves and not let them invest. I think we should celebrate these innovations.
Celebrate them and just, so, Wild Wild West, just let it go, let it happen?
We've got a witness, apparently, that, there's the suggestion that because GameStop is obviously overpriced, the SEC should do something about stopping people from investing in it. Well, I don't know. Was Tesla fairly priced at 1,500 times earnings? Is it fairly priced today at 1,000 times earnings? I don't know. Neither does the SEC. Neither of us should be telling people what they can buy and what they can't buy.
But what about, you can come up with other examples, obviously, when people get together and decide on an investment theme and move it. But the power of social media and being able to aggregate so many people to do the same thing and all act in concert, which brings up the at least the perception it's some kind of pump and dump from years ago, except it's got a new flavor because it's on a social media site. That there's no merit to that argument?
So I don't think so. I don't know how sustainable this is. Look, I do think GameStop was a classic bubble, and it still looks like it's wildly overpriced. That's just my opinion. But it's not at all clear to me that any laws or regulations were broken. And I'm not sure what you would do about people who are, fraud is illegal, and it should be prosecuted. Dishonest information about companies, that's illegal. It should be. But a group of people coming together and saying, hey, there's a big short on this company. Let's buy it and squeeze them out. Really? We're going to try to ban that somehow? I will say there's one thing I think we should be looking at, and that is shortening the settlement cycle. Waiting 2 days from the time that a trade is executed to the time that it actually clears introduces risk into the system, and I think we could diminish that risk, and that would be beneficial. But limiting people's freedom to make investment decisions, that doesn't sound like a good idea to me.
All right, toss it over to Andrew. Andrew?
Senator, my understanding is it is illegal if you and myself and Joe and Becky decided that we were going to make a decision as a group to go buy shares of Apple or Tesla or whatever, whether it's a short squeeze or not. If we have this conversation together and then we go and we buy up a significant amount of shares, that unto itself, under the current law, is not allowed.
Well, I'm not a lawyer, but that strikes me as a very, very broad interpretation of the law, Andrew. Aren't there investment clubs where people get together all the time and they discuss ideas? And I imagine sometimes a consensus emerges and everybody goes out and buys a stock. Are those people all routinely breaking the law?
No, in that case, those would be independent decisions made by independent actors. The issue is whether you do it as a collective. That is the law as I understand it.
Okay, well, you may have more expertise on that element than I do, and I'm happy to be educated on that. But again, I don't know exactly where you draw the line between people sort of acting in a concerted fashion and people just agreeing on a set of ideas.
The stimulus bill, we've been talking about it all morning. Yeah. We've talked about it before. Did it get any more palatable for you at the final version?
Let me be very clear. It definitely got worse. This is an embarrassment, and it's a disaster. Every big piece of it, and most of the little ones. State and local government, for instance, $350 billion. You realize that in 2020, state and local governments in the aggregate collected more revenue than ever before. And that's not counting the $500 billion we sent them last year. Now we're told we have to send them yet another $350 billion. We hear that $130 billion so schools can open, except that there's no requirement that schools open, and only $6 billion of it is going to be spent this year. The other $122 billion is going to be spent in years into the future. There's reparations for minority farmers and ranches, irrespective of income or wealth. There's money for the National Endowment for the Arts, and there's earmarks of all kinds. It's a disaster.
We talked about that, actually, and I don't know. You need some museums. Museums have had a hard time. We don't want to lose our culture, do we?
Yeah, this is not about COVID. This is not about an economic recovery. Even the unemployment insurance plus-ups, we know that almost half of everybody who's unemployed will be getting paid more to stay home than they would make going to work. Well, how does that make any sense at all? The direct payments, the $1,400, the vast majority of those are going to people who never had any lost income. Why are we doing this? We're gonna borrow or print $2 trillion and then send out a bunch of money. There's a lot of state governments they're just going to cut taxes. They got so much cash, there's nothing else they can do. It makes no sense.
All right, Senator Roy Blunt, they're leaving left and right. Make it tough road to hoe, don't you think? For your party?
Roy's a terrific senator, and the Senate will miss him. But Missouri is a red state, and he'll be replaced by.
Okay. All right, Senator. Thank you. Good to have you on.
All right. Thank you.